Thing.
Okay.
All right, we're at the Mishnah on Kuf Yitzayin Amud Beis. So just towards the bottom. There's the Mishnah. The same way that we talked about guys upstairs and downstairs, I'm going to tell you the situation because it's strange for us. You know, in a field, you can have a rock that's covered with dirt. It happens. You know, here, think of the earth. So you have a rock that's covered with dirt. So it's quite possible. Let's say that two kids inherited a piece from the father, and one kid said, "Listen, I want the garden on top of them. I want the ground on top of the rock." And the other kid says, "I'm going to take the rock and I'm going to dig a hole in it and I'm going to make a wine press in there." You understand? So it's like two floors. You understand? So as below, we said the downstairs guys are responsible to keep the roof up on his building. So what happened is that's what happens over here. So he said, similar to what we said before with upstairs and downstairs, a Beis Abad, let's say a guy dug out a wine press in a rock, which is covered, which is built into the rock. And there's what? Then there's a planted garden above it that belongs to the other son. Benifchas, and now the roof of the stone of the wine press caves in. Hari Balgida, Yorva. So since the bottom guy is responsible to rebuild the roof, the upstairs guys let it come downstairs and plant in the whole floor of the downstairs until he makes the dome on top of his thing to allow the guy to put dirt and continue planting. Very, very similar to the case of the upstairs and downstairs. Now, what happens if a guy's private property and his wall or his tree from his private property fell into the public domain, not because of because of a big wind came, etc. He wasn't negligent. Beziku, and they did damage. Okay, he's exempt from paying because he didn't do anything. It's not his problem. Lakotzi was tarsakoso, but pardon me, Naskosman Lakotzi was tarsakoso. If the emissaries of the Beis Din saw that the tree or the wall were in danger of falling, and they gave him, we'll see, like 30 days to cut it down, to take it down before it falls. But Naflu, okay, and they fell into the public domain. The Sochazman, if it was in the time that they allotted him to take it down, Pakri, he's still exempt from the damage in the time. The Harzman, but afterwards, after the days that they told him, he falls in. So then Chayav, he was negligent. The Chayav, he's obligated for the damage that it does in the public domain. If a guy's wall was next to his friend's garden, Benafal, and his wall fell into his friend's garden. The Amar below, and the owner of the wall said to the owner of the garden, the owner of the garden said to the owner, he says, look, get your rocks out of my thing. Amar, he said to him, the owner says to him, hey, they're yours. It's a present. I'm giving it to you. Ain't show me. It's nothing. He's not going to acquire it against his will. We don't listen to him. The other guy has to take it out. The guy who owns the wall. Okay, Misha, but let's say the guy in the garden said, yeah, I'll take him. I'll be responsible. And then what? And he got rid of them, and he wants to take possession. Amarlo, Halach. And then afterwards, the guy who told him, look, the rocks are yours, you get rid of them yourselves. Then he changes his mind. He says, Halach, here, I'll pay you whatever it costs to get rid of the rocks. Let me take the rocks. Whatever it costs you. Vania told, he says, and I'll take them back. Actually, I'll take my rocks back. And Shamila, we don't listen. It's too late. The guy acquired it. If a guy hired a worker to do a specific job, this is very important. When you hire a worker to do a specific job, you only own him vis-a-vis that job. Okay. So if you hired a guy for example, to work with straw and stubble, and he said to him, "Tain li sorry," and then the worker said, "Pay me." Well, Marlo told us, and he says to him, "Listen, you worked on the straw and stubble. Take the straw and stubble that you did instead of getting paid." And Shomila, we don't listen to him. Okay, and even though normally paying in kind is just as good as paying money. I can pay you in dollars. I can pay you in wheat. What's the difference? But the answer is that here, where the Torah said, "Don't hold back a worker's pay," the worker, ironically, as opposed to all the people you owe money to, has a right to demand his pay in the money and not to be paid in commodity. Okay, you can't do it. You should keep Allah, but let's say the worker said, "Okay, I'll take the commodity instead." Then the boss changed his mind. He says, "Hey, here, I'll give you the money." Ania told us, "I'll take the stuff you worked on, the straw and the stubble." And Shamini, you want to listen to him what? Because already the worker has already acquired it.
Yeah, but this labor take the money.
No, in which case? Which case you talking about? The case
accepted the straw.
No. So then he can't. I'll give you. No, he doesn't have to take the money. He says, "I'm sorry, you already gave me the straw and I took it. You can't force me to take the money." Okay, he couldn't force him to take the straw to start with, but if he took the straw, then he can't force him to take the money afterwards. Okay, now Nefchasa, we learned in our at the beginning of the Mishnah. If the roof of the wine press or the oil press, in the rock caved in, so what? Is the upstairs guy has the right to plant downstairs? Rava Mabruba. Now, how much of the upstairs has to cave in to give the guy to move to go downstairs completely, to completely take the ground? So he says Ruba. Rav says only when most of the roof is caved in, then he has the right to plant in the whole downstairs. Okay, but if it's only a part, then he only has a right to the amount that deteriorated. Shmuel Amar no ba'arba. He says it should really be ba'arba. Okay, because he means 4 tvachim. Once it's 4 tvachim, he has a right. 4 tvachim, not that before handbreadth is enough. If the roof disappears, he has a right to plant in the whole downstairs. Okay, Rabba Mabru, but why does Rav say what? You have to have the majority. Okay, Abu Ba'arba, if it was only 4 tvachim, he doesn't have a right to the whole thing, only the 4 tvachim. Because it's normal, we can assume that a person can plant a little bit upstairs and a little bit downstairs, half up and half down. Shmuel says no, that's not normal. Ba'arba, once it's 4 tvachim, he has a right to plant in the whole downstairs. Why? In other words, a person, that's not a normal thing to expect a guy to plant half downstairs and half upstairs. Now, remember, we had the same argument before, if you remember, by the roof, by the ceiling of the downstairs and the upstairs. Did the guy have a right to move downstairs with already four tvachim, or he needed the majority? And it was the same argument. One was the guy doesn't live upstairs and downstairs. One, yes. So how come we argued it twice? But Gemara says we had to argue the same argument twice. And if you told me Rabbi Shmuel the argument Dira by the case of the house or the living space, the whole Kamar Shmuel say that's where Shmuel said what he should that what. But he can't come downstairs with 4 tvachim. Why? Pardon me. Why is allowed to come downstairs with 4 tvachim? The diary. People, that's not the way to live. You don't live part upstairs and part downstairs. Period. Not even 4 tvachim. Our Indians real when it comes to planting. Planting, people do that all the time. They plant whatever little nook and cranny they can find. So no guy's going to live upstairs and downstairs at the same time. But to plant upstairs and downstairs, that's normal, no problem. Okay, and the other way, okay. So Ema, you might say that he agrees to Rab, the guy lives upstairs and downstairs. Be it Marbaha, and had Rab and Shmuel argued in the case of the garden and the rock. Okay, Bahach Kamar Rab. It's here where Rab said that he's not allowed to plant all the downstairs unless the majority of the roof disappeared. Okay, but less than that, he plants a little bit upstairs, a little bit downstairs. That's true by gardening. When it comes to living, I can say Rabbi admits to Shmuel that people don't live upstairs and downstairs at the same time. And therefore, what we needed to have the argument in both. Okay, Nasnu lo zman. We learned if the base didn't give a guy a period of time to take down the tree or to take down the wall, then he's responsible for it if it does damage in the public domain. The Kamazman based, and how much is the time the base gives a guy to take a thing down? On Rabbi Yochanan Shloshim Yom, we give him 30 days. Mishaya Kosto, etc. We said we learned the mission, if somebody's wall was next to his friend's garden and it fell to the garden, and if he said to listen, they're yours, but I'm not taking them out, we don't listen to him. But we learned Tani Seifa, since we learned in the next part, if the guy took them and then he says, the guy said, I'll take the stones. They say, I want the stones back. I'll pay you whatever it costs you to move him. We don't listen to him. Michlal the Panino asking, when is it that he can't get them back from the other guy? When the other guy said, okay, I'll take him, and he moved them. Time with the Panino, but it sounds like what? Only because he moved them already. That's when the original owner of the stones can't get them back. Hello, Panino, but if the guy in the garden who took them but hasn't moved them yet, they just agreed, he does, okay, then he didn't acquire them yet. Okay, and the guy can say, I'll give you the money, and I'm taking my stones. Or just say, I'm taking my stones. Amai, says the Gemara, why? Why is it that until the owner of the garden moves them, he doesn't own them? Let his courtyard acquire for him. We know who people's courtyards acquire for them. Until we learn that a courtyard of a person, a yard, it acquires for the person, even if he doesn't know the thing fell into it, because it's got a fence around it. So Gemara says no. That's where the guy whose object fell into the other guy's yard wanted to give it to him. Over here, when he said to him, listen, I want you take these stones. He really wasn't planning that. He was just trying to gain some time, okay, because he wasn't have time to get rid of them. She said, "Oh, you take them." But then he figured before the other guy takes him out, I'll take him out. So he never really gave him to the other guy. So the other guy's courtyard would have acquired had this guy really meant seriously to give it to him. But this guy was just playing his cards close to the chest. He said, "Oh, look," he said, you can, they're yours. You can have the stones if you'll worry about getting rid of them." Really, he planned to keep the stones, and he figures he'll grab them and get rid of them before the other guy does. But meantime, the other guy won't nag him to get rid of them, and therefore he never meant for the other guy to acquire. We learned in the Mishnah, if a guy hired a guy to work on straw and stubble, and then after the guy picked it up, he said, "Listen, instead of paying you, I'm going to give you the stuff. I'm going to give you the stuff you picked." We don't listen to him. He has to pay him the money, like we said, because that was the deal. Okay, but if but if the worker says, "Okay, I'll take the straw and the stubble instead of my pay," so then he can't go back. Then the boss can't come back and say, "Oh, I changed my mind. I'll give you the pay. I want the straw stubble." Again, okay, now you taught me essentially the same rule twice. You taught me once by the stones falling off the wall, falling to the guy's garden, and you taught me the same thing by the worker and the boss. Boss. But why'd you have to teach me the same thing twice? Okay, why? If you told me the first case by the wall falling to the other guy's garden, okay, the Chikamarle, where he says to him, when he said to him, "Look, it's yours, you can keep the stones, ain't Shamila," we don't listen to him. We should the less say agragabe. You know why? Because he doesn't owe him anything. In other words, the guy who has the garden is not owed anything. He doesn't need anything from the other guy, so he can't force him. But I think here we're the case with what the worker did the work. He's really owed, let's say, $10 pay. He's waiting. He needs to get paid. Here he's waiting to be paid. Okay, his wages are sitting by the boss. I think that we listen to the owner. He says, "Listen, he's going to let him pay him with the stuff he picked." Because it's a common saying. People say, when a person owes you money, pay area take payment even in brand. The cheapest part of the grain. Okay, even brand. So you think therefore I tell me what? No, that even there we don't listen to the guy. Had you told me here in the case of what by the case of the worker, I might say, when does this rule apply? Okay, okay, here where the owner here where the worker agreed to listen to the boss. He said, "Okay, I'll take the wheat and the straw and the stubble as my pay." And then the owner changed his mind. Ain't Shamila, we don't listen to him. Why we shouldn't say again? Why don't we? Because he really owes him. The boss owes him the money. Okay. And therefore, what? And he acquired the stubble, etc., with his pay. So that's why the boss can't renege. But over here by the garden case, I might think that the owner of the stones, after he gave it to the garden person, that he can renege. Why? The less they are since the garden person is not trying to get paid. Okay, so he didn't automatically acquire it. We can listen to the balabais because the worker didn't really take possession, so to speak, of the stones. Okay, they didn't really take possession of the stones because he's not waiting to be paid. Therefore, you have to tell me in both cases, neither of the guys has to take the stones or the wheat and chaff when the boss says so, or the owner says so, and neither of them is obligated to give them back once they took them. We learned further. We said when the boss says to the worker here, you take the straw and stubble that you worked on instead of your pay. Ain't we don't listen to him. We don't listen to him. But didn't we learn the other way? We learned in the Bryce that we listen. He's allowed to pay him in the straw and stubble. Now get ready because we're going to have to spend a long time defending this. Rav Nachman said, Khan, he says, don't worry. How come the Mishnah said what? The boss can't make him take it as his pay. And the Bryce said he can. Rav Nachman lo kasha, he says, why? He says, Khan, he says, Bishalo. What's the case? Over here in our Mishnah, when we don't listen to him, it's where the worker worked on the boss's own straw and stubble. Okay, and therefore what? And he has to pay him. Okay, because that was the deal he made with them. Okay, Khan. But over here, when the Bryce said that we listen to him, he makes him take him b'shachabera. It's where he took him. He took him to go work in his friend's field. Okay, and he worked in the friend's field without the permission of the friend. So therefore, what? So he doesn't really have to pay him at all because nobody's getting any benefit from anybody. Okay, and therefore, if he said to him, take the what you worked on for your pay, we listen to him, and he doesn't have to pay him his pay. Amalei Rabbi Rav Nachman, Rabbi Rav Nachman said, "B'shalom." One second. He says, what's the reason why when it's his own property, you said that the worker can refuse to be paid in kind, he has to be paid money. Because he says, listen, he says, or agra, he says, my salary is on you. Also, if you hired a guy, told him to work in your son's field, you're also responsible for his salary. The Tanya, because we learned that if a guy hires a worker, to work in his field, and then he showed him the other guy's field. Saying those he still has to pay him for everything. And he gets paid back from the balabais, so whatever benefit he gave. So you see, even if you sent the guy to work in another guy's field, you're responsible. So how can Rav Nachman answer that? Rav Nachman says, no, don't worry. I can give you a different answer. Kasha. There's no contradiction to the Mishnah and the Brisa. The Mishnah said we don't listen to the boss, and he has to pay the salary and not in kind. And the Brisa says we listen to him. Khan and the Mishnah says we don't listen to him. Bishalo. Okay, again, where the worker worked in the hirer's properties. He has to pay him with what he owes him and not in kind. When we listen to the boss that he can pay him in kind, Bishal Efker, when he had him pick something out of where there was no owner, he had him working out in a Hefker domain. They didn't belong to anybody. So he says, your pay will be, I'm going to give you what you picked. Okay. Now, why is that? Because here you have to realize that the worker does not acquire for the boss. We said, but you can't acquire for somebody else from Hefker. We learned why, because you pick up a lost object for somebody, they don't acquire. Why? Because you're hurting. You can be an agent, but not to hurt other people. For you to be the agent for the guy, you can hurt other people. You can't be the agent. Okay, so therefore he doesn't have to. He's allowed to pay him in kind, and he doesn't pay. And he doesn't have to pay because he doesn't own the stuff that he picked. ACB says the Gemara, Rav Nachman. He said, "What are you talking about?" He says, didn't we learn? It's not like you said. We learned that that the lost object. Let's say a guy works for you in the field, and he found a lost object. It belongs to him. But when is that true? It's not keshi miyayom or adori miyayom. It's where the boss hired him specific for the job of weeding today, or especially for the job of digging today. So if he does anything else, he's on his own volition. He has to pay back the boss for the time he took off, but it's his own finding. So if he finds a lost object, it's his. But let's say the boss hired the guy said, listen, you're working for me today from 9 to 5. I'm paying you. For the day's work. You're working for me 9 to 5. He says, but if you said you work for me 9 to 5, then any lost object he finds during that time belongs to the owner. Why? Because everything he's owned for the day. Anything he does on behalf of the owner. So how can you tell me what Rav Nachman, that when the guy worked in unclaimed property, okay, he becomes like a self-appointed whatever it is for the boss, and the boss doesn't acquire it. We see the boss does acquire it. As long as the guy was working for the boss for the day, he acquires it. Okay, okay. So what are you talking about? Rav Nachman said, don't worry. So if you're still giving it, so what's the difference between the Mishnah that says that when the boss says, I'll pay you in kind, we don't listen to him, and the Bryce says when the boss says, "I'll pay you in kind," we listen to him. Of what you work. Rav Nachman lo kasha here. Khan, he says in our Mishnah, we don't listen to the boss. Okay, it's where the worker had already picked up the stuff. Khan, okay, we picked up the straw in the chaff, so it belongs to the boss. Khan, in the Bryce, when it says we do listen to him, Bahabata, all that happened was the guy was just guarding the stuff, just looking at it. Or, for example, another place, let's say he picked stuff by kicking it down the hill where he never picked it up. So therefore he never took it in possession for the owner. So then that's when the boss has the right to say, what? I didn't acquire the stuff, and therefore I'm paying you in kind. He says, 1 second. He says, how can you answer me and take it as a given that when you discard something that nobody owns, then when you guard something that nobody owns, I'm sorry if I didn't explain before that before was both cases where he was working in non-owned property. One case where he lifted up in non-owned property, and one case where he just guarded it in non-owned property, to watch it. So now Gemara says, how according to you, you're making the assumption that just guarding something that doesn't belong to anybody, it does not acquire it on behalf of the boss. He says Tanai. He says that is a machlokus of Tanaim. It's not a given. The Tanaim, because we learned Shomer Svichei Shvius. Okay, let's say that we on the 7th year when I can't harvest, or can't plant the land, etc. What grows by itself and we're gonna harvest in the seventh year. We're gonna harvest the barley for the Omer sacrifice. Okay, or we're gonna harvest the wheat for the two breads that we give on Shavuos. Okay, okay. So somebody's watching it, so they can say to the poor people, listen, leave this stuff, don't take this stuff, because we're gonna use it, for the temple sacrifices. Okay, okay, and that no animals eat them. Notin stars make too much. So the guys who are watching on our behalf, they get paid from the money that we put into the temple for the sacrifices. Rabbi Yossi says, Harotza mistabi, not mistabi. Rabbi Yossi says, no, I'm sorry. The guy who wants to guard them, he can do it as a volunteer, but you can't pay him. Why? He has to be an unpaid watchman. Yeah, okay, but otherwise, Amrlo, they said, Ato Omer Kain. So they said to the rabbi said to him, he said he's an unpaid one. The rabbi said to him, what are you telling you? He's an unpaid, they're unpaid. He says, Ain by Michel Tzibor. He says, according to you, if you have the watchman unpaid, then what? They're going to acquire this stuff. Okay, they're going to acquire it, and the sacrifice that's supposed to come from the community is not coming from community property, which is no good. Okay, so isn't that exactly the argument? The Tanakama, the rabbis believe what? They believe that merely guarding hefker things makes you own it, so the watchman owns it, and it's not going to come from the community. So if we pay them money, what for the watchman, it's all fine. Why? Because then the worker never intends to acquire it because we're paying. Be loud, but if we're not paying him low, you can't do it. Why? Because he's going to acquire it. It's not going to be a good sacrifice. Rabbi Yossi Sabra, but the Rabbi Yossi says, forget it, doesn't matter. Even if they guard it, they don't acquire it from Hefker. When the community brings it, Hashdu the Kozachi Bey. It's only now that the tzibur gets it from Hefker, and there's no problem. So how can you answer me that the Bryce is talking where the worker watched it in Hefker, and if we didn't acquire it, you do acquire it, according to one opinion. So I said, no. Furthermore,
there's a watchman there. How could it be Hefker?
No, the question is like this. I hire a guy. So you watch this stuff for just Hefker. So one opinion is that when he watches the Hefker, he's acquiring it. On my behalf. So when it came to the tzibur, we said, but if the tzibur pays them, they're not going to acquire it. They could, but they don't intend to, because we're paying them. That's why we're by paying them, we're basically convincing them not to take it for themselves. But the whole point here is that Rav Nachman tried to differentiate between the Mishnah and the Brisa, that since both of them came where I hired a guy to work in Hefker stuff. For one case, he picked it up, in which case the owner acquired it, and he can't pay him a kind. And the other case where you just told him to watch it, and even if he's working with the boss, watching a thing doesn't acquire it. So he said, "Listen, that's not true. I just showed you that the argument that when it came to the barley of the seventh year for the sacrifice, you see that was the argument of the rabbis and Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi said what? The rabbi said, according to Rabbi Yossi, if they take it for free, they're going to acquire it. So you see, just watching a thing acquires it from Hefker, and Rabbi Yossi says it doesn't. So that would be, so Rav Nachman would be against Rabbi Yossi. Okay, that's what we're up to. Gemara says, "Uma ata omer." What did it mean when they said? How could they say what? He says, if you do that, if you don't pay them, it's not going to come to the tzibur. That's what they're saying to him. You're going to end up according to the way you do it, according to what we believe that watching acquires. Ain omer shtei lechem by mishal tzibur. So now the omer and the two bread sacrifices are not going to come to tzibur because he's going to acquire it. Amar Rava. No, he says, you don't have to say that that's the argument. The kuliyam, and you can go in both directions. The kuliyam about the befka kani. I could say one in that argument between the rabbis and Rabbi Yossi in the seventh year. I could say everybody holds what, that just guarding it will acquire it. What's the argument? The only question like this: we all know that the watchman is going to really take possession. But we know they're going to give it back to the community. But the question is, are we afraid? Once they acquired it, they will wholeheartedly give it back to the community. We'll think that they did, but they really didn't. And therefore what? And therefore they won't be a community sacrifice. That's what they're arguing about. That what? Okay, Rabbanan Sabra, the rabbis believe what? Yavina le agra. Okay, once we pay him money, okay, we have to pay him money. Below it, if we don't pay them money, chashina shema loim sebi yaf. We don't pay the guys. We're afraid they're not going to really willingly give it up. If they pay them, so they feel happy, they're ready to give it away to the community. But if not, not. And so, but you have to worry that they did, bro. You see something like that? Look, you don't have to worry. Jewish people are all generous and no problem. You don't have to worry about it. They know it's community sacrifice. If they said they gave it, they gave it. The argument is whether you have to worry about it or not. What was the language when they said, if you say that it's a problem? This is what they said to him. They said, according to you, that you don't pay them, it's going to be a problem. According to us, the chashinan, because we worry, we don't pay them, we're going to be afraid that the workers will not give it back to the community wholeheartedly. Because and it'll come out that the omer and the two breads will not come from the community. Some people say, listen, I can also say, but that both opinions are the other way. Everyone agrees the other way, that guarding something that doesn't belong to anybody does not acquire. Okay, but okay, and what's the argument between the rabbis and Rayasi? The Bali Zoros, the Chashina Bali Zoros. Do we have to worry about strong people, big guys, big brawny guys who'll take it by force? Okay, come here, forget that argument. The Tanakh Masabar, the rabbis believe what? The Takin Rabbanan Lemetav Le, Arba Zuzi. Really what? The workers will never acquire it because you can't acquire from Africa by guarding. But we decide to pay them 4 zuz. Why? And everybody knows about it. So that the tough guys will hear it. The big strong guys will hear it, and they'll believe that since we paid them, the Hagdish has already acquired it. It knows the big guys are not going to try and steal it from the Beis Hamikdash. They're going to try and get it before. So once they hear that the Beis Hamikdash paid, so they'll believe the Beis Hamikdash already owns it. They won't bother them. The Lifshuminar, they're going to stay away from it. Yossi Sobri says lo takina. He says, nah, we don't have to make such a decree. We don't have to worry about it. Okay, we don't have to worry that the big, brawny, strong guys are going to come and take what we're going to need for the temple. One more little part. He says, Uma Atomer. What's the dialogue between the rabbis and Rabbi Yossi? He said, from what you said that you don't pay them, the Dvareno, according to what we said, we're worried about the strong guys taking the stuff before we get it. He says, Ein boy mishal tzibur. So we're afraid what's going to happen is that if he watches for free and the strong guys are going to come and take them. Okay, so yeah, 1 second. Right. So we said that they have to pay the 4. We said they have to pay the 4. But according to you, if you take them for free, it's going to come out that they are foregoing the 4 zuz that we say automatically has to be paid. Okay, and it's going to come out that they have 4 zuz of temple property from the sacrifices, and when the temple buys with those 4 zuz other sacrifices, but those sacrifices won't come from the community. Rabin, and when Rabin came from Eretz Israel, he said the same to Omar. He said, that's exactly the argument. Whether you have to worry about whether we automatically have to pay for in order to worry about brawny, strong guys. And that will leave the rest. I think we can leave till till the afternoon. So we do the Mishnah in the end. We'll be fine.
Exactly.
Yeah. That dialogue, this whole give and take this last piece was not easy.
She gonna print copies?
Yes.
Who's printing?
Printing, yeah. Kufyut Ches.
Who's printing?
Base bar.
And printing also beginning of Baba Basra?
I would think so. Usually does.
So.
Okay, good job. All right.
Tell them to go for the Mishnah.
I want to order something new this time. They didn't get before. Let's see what they got on the menu.
Peanut butter and jelly.
Peanut. They serve peanut butter jelly.
Nah.
You know what I like over there? I eat the Jerusalem, which is the appetizer. It's enough for real.
Oh, what is it? What Jerusalem grill?
Who's Taina?
Right.
Okay, meat's inside of it.
Oh, I'll maybe try that. That's it.
What is that again?
Oh, Jerusalem mix, right? Murav Yerushalmi. Yeah.
Yerushalmi mix.
It's good.
What's
Yeah, I have to see the dough, but you have to taste it. Like Ashkenazi are a little problem. The real Yerushalmi, I'll tell you why, because the real Yerushalmi, Murav Yerushalmi, has hearts in it. Ashkenazi don't eat hearts.
No, it's nice learning what
you have to make. But I doubt that in Yerushalayim, Murav Yerushalmi has what's it called? The Pipix with Pipics and this and hearts.